The Senate Armed Services Committee, North Dakota Senator Kevin Cramer joins me. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good to be with you.
Good to have you. Senator, the whole issue of tying this border security to Ukraine, do you agree with tying those two things together, or should they be treated separately?
Well, I completely agree with tying them together as long as the president insists on having an entire package. I suppose if the president wanted to send us separate packages, one for Ukraine, one for Israel, one for Taiwan, one for replenishing America's weapons and munitions, and a border bill, we could deal with them one at a time, but clearly that's not what he's chosen to do. I think the condition that Republicans have put on, that we're first going to secure our own safety and our own borders before we secure somebody else's, is an easy ask and should be easy to fulfill.
You know, I don't understand, looking into the political year, these decisions should not be made on politics, but rather on commitment in terms of what each senator believes is right for the country. But I don't understand those who are voting, who are resisting border security, how they go home to the taxpayers in a political year and say, you came second.
Well, exactly right. I know I can't go home and say, listen, we'd love to, keep our children safe, our border cities safe, our inner cities safe. We'd love to prevent, 100,000 deaths a year from fentanyl poisoning. But first we have to take care of Ukraine, and we have to take care of Israel. We have to take care of Taiwan. All of those are high priorities for most Republicans. In the case of Israel, perhaps almost every Republican. But all of them are subservient to our own security. These are not unrelated issues, and it should be easy. And quite honestly, if the Democrats would agree to our conditions on the border, they'd get several hundred votes in the House, and they'd get a vast majority, if not, not close to a supermajority in the United States Senate.
If that happened, if the Biden administration did agree to what the Republicans want in terms of border security, would you be voting yes if it were a standalone vote on whether to fund Ukraine with the amount of money that's being asked?
So really important point. They're tied together in this bill. But even if the other bills were separated, I'd first have to have border security. There's no reason for us to make our own citizens
but if they're separated
to anybody else.
But if they're separated, if they're two different, yeah.
Sure. If they're separated, I would vote for Ukrainians' request to secure Ukraine. I think we have a national interest in doing that. I think we have a moral and a historical obligation to do that. But I wouldn't do it until we got the border secure. That's the condition on the next vote and the next vote and the next vote.
Senator, before you go, over the weekend, you raised concerns about military recruitment and where some of its advertising funds are going. I want to play a clip of what you said for the audience.
Sure. The Army itself uses an advertising agency that's a division of Omicron that uses, associated with NewsGuard, which uses blacklisting and targets over $2 million worth of advertising in Huffington Post and none in Newsmax. I mean, I think that we've got to get back to the mission.
Now, as I understand it, NewsGuard, which I didn't know much about, rates media outlets, and that the U.S. Army is using an agency associated with NewsGuard to determine where the Army's military recruitment ads should be placed. So is the placement fair, or is there a biased selection, and does that impact recruitment? And if it's not fair, what, if anything, is Congress going to do about it?
Yeah, so it's not fair for sure, but more importantly, it's not a very good strategy, Greta. $2 million on Huffington Post online or digital, and none on Newsmax, when Huffington Post is liberal and less likely to be targeted at people more likely to join the military and defend our freedom, and none for Newsmax, where most people that would fit the demographic would be watching Newsmax, who might consider defending our country and defending their own liberty. So I just think it's an awful marketing strategy, having been a teacher of marketing management to MBA students before I came to Congress. So there's that, but what it really tells me is that the decision by Omicron's company is not based on good marketing or good strategy or good targeting, but rather based on some sort of weird political bias where NewsGuard picks the winners and the losers regardless of the marketing value.
Can you do anything? Can Congress do anything about it so that a wider swath is made so you can make sure the recruitment is strong?
We can, Greta, and there was an attempt to get language in the National Defense Authorization Act which was still being debated just a few hours ago. Whether or not it makes it into the final package, I don't know. But even if it does not, then we have to take it to the next step, work on appropriations, limitations, things like that, to ensure this. But I would say this, Greta, the fact that you and I are having this conversation, the fact that I raised it at a recruitment panel at the Reagan National Defense Forum, sitting next to the Assistant Secretary of the Army in charge of it, all of those things help shed light on what is really an injustice and, again, really bad marketing.
Senator Kevin Cramer, thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.